I remember vividly anticipating LA Noire. I was enthralled that a game was attempting to capture the flavor of the genre that got in my heart. Like that dame you just can't seem to kill. When she was released, more than their fair share were none too kind on this delicate flower. She was just not for the times. Had she come along sooner, maybe they would have seen the knockout they all discredited far too soon. We had such little idea of what she was going to be for so long. All we clung to were vague ideas and promises. So naturally, once we met, all we could do was realize she would never shape up to the dreams in our head. Way back in 2006, just as the 7-console generation was really getting started, LA Noire debuts with a brilliant teaser trailer that gets many gamers hyped at the idea of playing detective in 1940s Los Angeles. We all daydreamed the possibilities that Rockstar and Team Bondi had in store for us. Then two big things happened. Two things that would alter the way in which LA Noire would be received. First, in 2008, there was Grand Theft Auto 4. Then in 2010, there was Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption especially hurt LA Noire due to being only a year old by the time Noire finally emerged. You may be wondering just how these two games played such a role in LA Noire's less than stellar launch. While LA Noire launched in a pristine condition, no bugs and no game issues to speak of, there was one fault that could not be polished so easily. While LA Noire was made in a pre-GTA 4 world, it did not launch into one. Worse, it did not have the luxury of coming from another developer. This was the game seen as Red Dead and GTA's successor. Sadly, and fortunately, the game was never intended to be anything like any open world game before it and even after it. Although, the upcoming The Sinking City does feel like LA Noire meets Call of Cthulhu, so fingers are crossed. The city of Los Angeles is open to explore. However, unlike many games of and since its time, there was not much to do within the city. You had 20 cases to solve at launch, which was then bumped up to 25 with post-launch DLC. That now comes standard with every remastered or complete edition. In addition to the story missions, you had 40 side cases, which generally involved a shootout, chase, fistfight, tailing a suspect, or sometimes a combination thereof. You also have the option to explore the city for various collectibles, and the opportunity to explore a period-authentic 1940s Los Angeles. These are great selling points. However, the gamers of the time and today are, well, they are fucking spoiled brats who can't appreciate a good thing when they have it. Rant aside, gamers expected tons of things to do outside of a 20-plus hour story. Okay, I need to rant a little here. I love lengthy games, but this constant need for every game to be over 10 hours is absurd. This is why we have so few games made today. You want every game to have so much content that even when a game has more than enough, you still think it should have more. So now, developers are breaking their backs to please you. Raise your hands if you thought Red Dead Redemption 2's story could have been 10 hours shorter. One other common complaint outside of the lack of side activities is that solving a case was more like an adventure puzzle game than the organic and next-generation crime-solving simulator that was expected. Your goal during each case is to look for clues and evidence at the scene of the crime, interview witnesses, and interrogate suspects to solve the case. This is a video game after all. This was never meant to be a simulator. If you have evidence, you can accuse people. You try to tell if they are telling the truth, or call them on a suspected lie. You can even fail case after case and finish the game, as you are never truly punished for failing. The game does casually reference the fact that you solve or fail to solve a case through NPC dialogue that you randomly encounter as you travel through the city of LA. This is what gives the game its real flavor. It's also why the accusation that this was just a really advanced choose-your-own-adventure story is totally true. The conclusions to the game never change. Yet each case can have several different endings depending on how you perform. Performance is based on a couple of factors. Did you find all the clues and evidence? And did you accuse, spot a liar, tell the truth correctly each time? This means playing the game with any kind of guidance robs the game of its personal story. It can be annoying to fail a case, but that's also how many noir stories end. Tragically. If you grew up playing adventure games and loving the puzzles and stories, but wishing there was more interaction, exploration, and maybe even some combat, then LA Noire is a love letter to your idea of a video game. If you expected Grand Theft Cop, this game may not be your cup of coffee. There is also the accusation that the game has no overarching plot. This is totally untrue, as the game is the story of Detective Cole Phelps. None of the cases needed to intersect, although there is that one big case that lingers through the entire game. That is, of course, if you pay attention to the many scattered newspapers you can find during the story. I did not mind the story being told in this way, as it did immerse me into the world. I just wish that the war flashbacks to Phelps' days in the Pacific had either been playable to some extent, or if they had been optional interactions like the newspapers. Of course, this is just modern gamer nitpicking. We all do it, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. Unless we can make a better game, then brah fucking oh. Most bad experiences we have with a video game is due to our expectations. Many moons ago, there were games that were bad because of broken, uninspired gameplay. Luckily, these are very rare now, and often the biggest issue we tackle is our own entitlement. We've stopped caring about what other people may like. Now, we focus only on what we hate. I understand if you hate something that's doing the world harm, but if you hate something that could bring another joy while not doing any harm, then the detective in me says you need your priorities fixed. If you try and find a reason for that thing you hate to supposedly become harmful, then I think you need some me time in a sanitarium. I also would not be a very good detective if I failed to mention the game's one true flaw. Cole Phelps is probably the worst lead character in any major video game ever. The performance is great. I'm also sure Aaron Stanton, who plays Cole, is a perfectly fine actor. But he is written as the most wooden and uptight cunt you could ever meet. Okay, that was a little far. He's not intolerable. Worse, he is just so dull and lifeless that it gives the game a case of the no-face. Phelps has very little personality and comes across as fairly unlikable, at least on the first playthrough. I won't lie and say that I love his character now. I still think any one of his partners would have made a better lead. But there's something about him that becomes more enduring with time. As a matter of fact, while I loved the game when it came out, I've grown to adore it far more than I thought I would. Each time I go back, I enjoy it more, or as much as I did the last time, which is something I feared during my first playthrough. I kept thinking, I love this now, but it can't last. It'll get boring or become dated with time. But it never did. As time passes, LA Noire ages like a classic scotch.